572-0383 and 572-0215. Rev-Up St. Lucia, the alpha of radio.
Join the United Workers' Party this and every Thursday on Rev-Up St. Lucia 97.1 FM for an educational and informative program, Meet the Opposition. Participate in exciting discussions from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Be in the know every Thursday on Rev-Up St. Lucia 97.1 from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
It's now time for Meet the Opposition, hosted by Mr. Lenard Spider Montoute. Mr. Montoute, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Andre. Good morning to all our viewers and listeners. And let me first apologize for my late arrival. You know, Andre, I try my best, pass back road, but, you know, I left home too late, I must say. But I'm hoping that we can make up for that. And I want to thank all of you who are tuning in, those who are tuning into radio, those who are on live stream, especially those of you who are in the diaspora who keep abreast with what's going on in our homeland, St. Lucia. I'm hoping that we're going to have an enjoyable program today and that, you know, it will be informative, interesting, and of course you will get an opportunity to call in to share your views, to perhaps ask questions and so on. But today, Andre, I want to start off with one of the burning issues of the day. That is the prospect of St. Lucia facing travel bans to the US and the UK and the European Union countries. And that for some may not be an alarm, but it has far-reaching effects and can have dire consequences for each and every one of us, not just as a country, but as individuals. Because, first of all, let's look at why are we here. Well, of course, you know, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, I personally find him to be very unpredictable in terms of what he can do and say. And we know that, well, being friends of the U.S. and having allies with the U.S. and so on mean very little to him. What he does is what is in the interest of the United States and of Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And so now it does not matter what our historical ties has been with the United States. If they decide they're going to take the action, they're going to take the action. Mm. But when you
let me just ask you a quick little question.
Yeah.
In terms of leadership, I find I like somebody who is consistent, somebody like, you know, they tell you something and they mean what they say what they mean. I find with Donald Trump, he says something now, next 2 days or day after that, or a few minutes after that, he already changes his mind. So in terms of being a good leader, do you think this is a good quality, that way you just kind of shifty?
Certainly it is not, because, you see, I believe as a leader, you must be trustworthy. And being trustworthy is not only being honest, but keeping your word as well. Because not keeping your word is a form of dishonesty. And at the end of the day, many people may have been misled into voting for him, for that matter, only to find out that he's doing things contrary to what they expected. So I think as a good leader, you have to be consistent, you have to be transparent, you know, and you must have some principles and some morals. Mm-hmm. And I do not know if we can say that for the President of the United States.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we are minions on the world stage in terms of, you know, the order of things as it plays out. And we are not in a position to affect the United States as such. And our interests matters very little to the United States. So what matters to them is their own interest. Mm-hmm. And so we have to be very mindful of that, and we have to be very cautious and so on. Like the Creole saying goes, like, we are avec Liverpool when it comes to the United States. And so when we get a threat such as this, I think it has to be taken very seriously. Again, because, like I said, it's because of the potential consequences it can have for us as a country and as individuals. Now, what are the potential consequences for us as a country? If a travel ban is imposed on St. Lucia, I mean, our biggest source market for tourism is the United States. So immediately our main industry will be severely hit. I mean, that will do untold damage to the hotel plans, the guest houses, the Airbnbs, and so on. Not to mention the workers on the St. Lucians, how they will be affected. The farmers will be affected because the hotels consume some of the products from the farmers and so on.
And the economy.
And the economy as a whole will get a blow. I am also thinking that because when we talk about travel ban, we have already seen evidence that the United States, because the ban is really to prevent the people from coming here, but we have already seen evidence that they are becoming stricter and putting tighter measures in place as to making it possible for us to go to the United States. Now, when it comes to people coming here, I said it will affect our tourist industry and so on. Going to the United States is also an issue for us because many of us have close ties in the United States, family. Many of us study, some go for medical care, and others go to do business. So that will severely affect in a negative way a wide array of people involved in different kinds of activities. So it is not something to be taken lightly. When it comes to the European Union, again, I think there's our second biggest source market for tourism. So in other words, if the two parties decide to implement that travel ban and St. Lucia is included on that list and we suffer that ban, you can literally say that our tourism industry will be crippled. Now, again, I explained what it does to tourism, but for us as individuals, not many of us admittedly travel to Europe, but those who do, it will affect them. But remember, many of us travel to Martinique for vacation, for because of family ties, to do business, and for health reasons. That again will become a difficulty. And so we cannot take it lightly, we cannot just sit back and think now. But the question is, what can we do? I mean, I listened to one of the new candidates of the United Workers' Party, Mr. Stephen Favre, who is, has spent many years in the diplomatic world and so on, making some suggestions as to, we have to be proactive in terms of beginning to address the issue, negotiating and so on. And of course, we know too that the cause of this, there are many countries on the US list, for example, for different reasons, terrorism, money laundering, and, trade imbalances and all of that. In our case, it is reasonable to assume that the main reason is our CIP program. And when you look at the other Caribbean territories that are on the list, some of them also have CIP programs. The Americans have indicated to us some of the stipulations that they want us to adhere to in order for them to consider our program acceptable. The extent to which it is being done is questionable. I think as a government...
Sorry, are you familiar with what the Americans are requesting of us as far as the program, the CIP is concerned?
I think they're looking at the vetting, the due diligence is one of the things. I don't think they're happy with how we go about doing it. I think they're looking for more transparency in the program and so on. And, there are certain countries that America have issues with because of terrorism and money laundering and so on. And even now with the wars going on. So if, for instance, we were to, say, be entertaining Russians as citizens of St. Lucia, it would be an issue for them. Now with the war between Iran and Israel, the Americans are on the Israeli side. Mm-hmm. You can well imagine that if we are entertaining Iranians, that would be an issue for them. So, and they have put some measures in place. But then again, our government is so tight-lipped on what is supposed to be a national program, and they are reluctant to provide information. The Prime Minister has said flatly that he is not discussing CIP going forward. The Minister always, says that he's going to give information, but he's very sketchy, very cagey as to how much information he provides. For instance, when he was asked details as to how many passports are being sold and all of that, he said that he could not divulge that information. He would have to get permission from the agent, from from Galaxy. And only later on to find out that he was in Dubai providing that information to outsiders. Whereas we St. Lucians are the ones with an entitlement, with a right to know. And so that is the kind of governance we have here, where people feel they can, suppress information, they can hide what it is they want to hide, and so on. Now, for me, Andre, anytime you begin to lie to me, anytime you begin to have secrets, anytime you begin to hide things from me, it makes me suspicious. Because invariably, the reason why you're doing so is because you are dishonest and because there is something to hide. And so, the government must clear the air. Because really and truly, it is not their personal affairs that we are delving into. It is national concerns, things of national interest. And we are entitled to know, and it is their duty to divulge the information to us, to let us know what's going on. Well, we know the history of the St. Lucia Labour Party. They talk a good talk in a campaign, but when the reality is absolutely something totally different. I mean, you have had the Prime Minister saying to media people when they ask questions about national issues, that's not your business. You have had people like Emma Hippolyte telling media workers, do not go there. In other words, don't ask that question. And things of that sort, and others who just, refuse to provide information. And so we find ourselves in the dark. Because you and I, Andre, will not very well know what is taking place at the boardrooms behind closed doors in terms of the people that are negotiating on our behalf, what it is that is going down. And I think we ought to know. We are in a democratic country, first of all, and information is power. We ought to know. Andre, if you're about to make an investment in the United States or in Europe, or planning to go there for some medical procedure or something, even that, from a personal standpoint, can help your planning, your decision-making, and so on. And it is important to let us know where we stand as a nation in the scheme of things. When we are hearing things all over the place, our government is supposed to be more open with us. And so it bothers me.
What do you think of the Prime Minister's response so far? Because he said he hasn't been officially informed.
Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. As absurdity. Let us be real, Andre. Okay, let us be real. I do not have shares here. But I have a program that I do occasionally here. It is a courtesy, Andre, for you to say to me that on Corpus Christi, because Thursday and so on, the station will be closed and so on. But Andre, you can just decide not to tell me, especially, a non-entity in the scheme of things and so on. But your shareholders, you make a point about telling them and so on. We are not, I hate to put it in that way, but that's the way it is. We are insignificant to the Americans. Okay? And let's face it, they have scant regard for us and very little respect for us. Mm-hmm. That is the reality. And on top of that, Andre, let's not pretend that we do not know that we didn't have Donald Trump. He's not the orthodox kind of leader, or he does things his way. So, in major things Americans are finding out on Twitter, on social media, you understand what I'm saying? It's not us he'll be bothered about. So if there is a list and it leaks, and especially if the leak is coming from a credible source, we cannot use the excuse that we didn't get any official correspondence. We know it is in train. We know something is about to happen. The sooner we leap into action, the better. What is it? Even if it is planning, what is it we are planning to do? What is it we are about to do? We can sit there and say, well, I've got no official response. That is nonsense. And besides, the government is aware that the Americans have concerns about us as a CIP nation. They are aware of that. The Europeans have given them indication that they are uncomfortable with our programs and have issued warnings already. So it is not a far-fetched, ludicrous, absurd proposition that is in the works, and that is something that is about to happen to us in this country. So if you have good government who are proactive and who understand the workings of the world around us, that is not the posture that will be adopted by the government. And so I find it ludicrous, I find it absurd, but not surprising. That is the MO of our Prime Minister. What does he know? I remember one time the Prime Minister was told that there was some advisory issued by the French to their citizens about St. Lucia. And he looked at the reporter like, really? Is that so? I mean, come on. You know, if a guy doesn't even know where St. Lucia is located, I mean, he doesn't even know our main industry is important to us, tourism. And I'm not saying so lightly. We have to take heed of those things because it tells us that we are in trouble. Because we have put our country and our affairs in the hands of a gentleman who is clueless. In these times, we need tenacious, capable, competent people to run our country. Because the maneuverings that have to take place now on the international stage is very tenuous, very unpredictable, you know, and can have far-reaching implications for us as a small nation. And so we need, you know, and that is why I always say, Andrea, and I'll take this opportunity to say again, that I am very impressed and pleased with the team that the United Workers' Party has assembled. And I say so because of not just because some of them are young, but the wide-ranging backgrounds that they have, the experience that they bring to the table. I think that will augur well for St. Lucia, that will serve us in good stead. And so, having said that, I am saying that the government of St. Lucia should take this matter a lot more seriously. Do not wait for the crash before you take preventative measures if they are possible. And if it is going to happen, let us prepare for the fall. You know what I'm saying? If you must fall, Andre, you can probably lay a mattress there so that you have a softer landing.
Yes.
So that is what I'm talking about when I talk about good governance and, you know, innovation and visionary thinking in government. And so I am disappointed, I am appalled, really, at the approach of our government, at the attitude of our government. And that CIP program, Andre, I've always said it, and I don't say it too loudly now, because when I was in government, I didn't say much openly about it. I mean, but my colleagues would know that I had my apprehensions about it. However, I keep saying that I gave in to the idea, given that, okay, while I was saying, boy, I have my misgivings about it, Andre, I wasn't exactly able to come up with any replacement program that would bring us the kind of revenue we need. And it seemed to be like an easy way to make some good money and so on. But it has its pitfalls, and it has its challenges. That we have to be mindful of. Because you see, when the pitfalls we're talking about, for a big country, shocks may be absorbed and not even noticed. But for us, it can have dire consequences and you know, it can be so impactful that it can be very destructive to us.
Has the opposition leader written the Prime Minister on this particular issue?
No, I know of. I'm not sure.
And I think if I understand what you're saying, with the behavior of Donald Trump and the administration by extension, the unpredictable sort of behavior, even to the point where you see he even defies court orders and so on, with that kind of unpredictability, you're saying we shouldn't take any chances with this administration. Because they could just probably implement this thing
overnight
without giving any notice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and so we should prepare for the worst, Andre, while we try to avert, the possibility of the negative implications. We should prepare for the worst. And at the end of the day, we have to be very careful how we tread as well. Because, you see, I'm one of those who is quick to advocate and proclaim that we are a sovereign country, we are independent, and so on. Andre, how independent are we?
And when you say we should prepare, I mean, in your estimation and the party's estimation, what can we really do about it? I mean, we certainly will not stop the program.
Okay, for example, let's look at one aspect of the implications, that is the fallout for tourism. Andre, those are our main markets. Should we start looking at alternative markets? You understand what I'm saying? We should start looking at alternative markets. And while Martinique is Europe, it's a department of Europe, and the laws that apply to Europe apply to Martinicans, because of the cultural ties and the connection and the familiarity and everything, I'm almost certain, even if France says, as part of the European Union, that they put a travel ban on St. Lucia, people from France will not come here. But I'm almost certain Martinicans will continue to come because they'll be intimately familiar with what goes on here. Look, man, what's a problem? You know, that kind of thing. The French from France who are not that familiar with the boy, the government say not to come, they just wouldn't come. So I'm saying we can probably still try to to nurture the Martinican market, which is a significant market, and I'm speaking as a Brazilian. It is very significant for us in Grosley. Let us look at other places. Where else can we begin to woo tourists from? You understand what I'm saying? America is very convenient because of its distance from us. But the other alternative may not be as attractive and so on, because it will be more expensive for them to travel, for instance, and all of that. But how can we make up, even if not 100% and so on? You know, these are the things I'm thinking about in terms of the CIP program. Andre, what can we do? Because you see, while I'm not advocating that we have to bow to the wishes of the big powers, we have to be real at the same time. What can we do? Because our CIP program, talking about bowing to the big powers, the CIP program has a lot to do with them. I have said it before, Andre, many of the applicants to our program are not interested in coming to live in St. Lucia. They're not interested in anything that takes place in St. Lucia other than those who want to invest. Many of them are using it as a gateway to Europe and the United States because they come from countries perhaps that are banned, where they cannot get a visa to the United States and entry to the United States, but as a St. Lucian, because that's what they become when they have our citizenship, as a St. Lucian, you can get a visa and you can have access in terms of entry to the United States. That is what it is. So in effect, we are luring those citizens with the bit of being able to go to those countries. So they have something to do with it. And they are saying their security is in jeopardy, money laundering is an issue for them, terrorism is an issue for them, and so on, because we may be allowing, especially if we do not perform the kind of due diligence that is necessary, allowing unsavory, undesirable elements to go through, if you want to call it that, a backdoor to get into the United States. Let us do what it takes to strengthen our program for our own good too, and to satisfy them that we have, a tight, foolproof program that is transparent and that is above board.
You know that Antigua boasts of having the gold standard for CIP programs. Yeah, that's what they say.
And admittedly, I can't repeat that because I don't know that, but admittedly, you hear less about Antigua in terms of corruption in their program. Okay? You hear St. Lucia, you hear Dominica, you hear St. Kitts, you hear less about Antigua.
But let me ask you, so wouldn't the same reasons for getting a passport from Antigua be the same as St. Lucia in terms of those people who are unable maybe to travel to the U.S., etc.? So wouldn't the reasons be the same thing?
Well, you see, the thing about it, if the Americans are more satisfied with the due diligence that the Antiguans are doing, it follows that the citizens that they issue passports to are more likely to be upstanding individuals in terms of character, in terms of their activities, and so on. So you'll less likely find criminals, for example, through their programs. Whereas if we are careless with issuing of passports, just granting citizenship to each and everyone, the people who are involved in money laundering, drug trafficking, terrorism, and so on, may filter in through our program, and that's what it is. And so we have to do, whether we like it or not, we have to satisfy the Americans, we have to satisfy the Europeans that we are doing what it takes to make them comfortable with our program so that we can continue our program.
So what do you foresee as far as the fall off or fallout from sanctions being imposed on St. Lucia, if that were to happen? What do you foresee?
Well, we'll be crippled. I mean, like I said...
No, in terms of what is it that we will not be... The Americans would say to us, well, because you haven't complied, here's what's going to happen. Yeah. Is it that they're going to ban the people from Americans from coming to St. Lucia?
Yes. And they may also decide that you and I cannot come to America as well. You understand what I'm saying? And so, because, you see, when they say you and I cannot come to America, don't forget, I don't know if you're a CIP citizen of America, Andre. Although your passport will say you're born in America, so your nationality, in St. Lucia, sorry, your nationality will show that. But don't forget, if they don't ban, they may just put a ban on us and not go through the trouble and find out who is national, who is a citizen by by CIP, that kind of thing. So it will have far-reaching effect. Besides, our program would be dead. Because why would the international community be interested in buying our passports if it's not going to serve them in terms of going to America? Except for those who want to come and invest here, like Galaxy and so on. They would not. There are many of them who buy the passport to get as a gateway to America and Europe. So they will not be buying it. So our product becomes less attractive immediately. Now, these are the things our government is supposed to engage. Those are the discussions they're supposed to be engaging us in. These are the things they're supposed to be telling us. But they make everything partisan. They make everything political. And they're not looking at the implications for us as a country and as a people. Now, I would defend them because I'm a liberal. You will oppose them because you're UWP. And the story goes on. We're not looking at the real issue. All of us will be affected negatively. And so I don't even see it as a partisan issue. Okay, it's a national issue as far as I'm concerned. Because both the United Workers' Party and the St. Lucia Labour Party embrace the CIP program. What is important is how they conduct the program, how they operate the program. Now, let's face it, Andre, the program has been in existence for a little while. I am pleased and proud to say that during the reign of the UWP, you can have all the criticisms you want to have, that, boy, we only made so much money, we this, we that, whatever. You did not hear all those scandals. You did not hear all this talk of corruption. You did not get us raising the eyebrows of the international community as is happening now. And I want to come to that, to discuss that further, Andre, later in my next topic. That, why is it that the government has chosen, maybe as a cover-up and so on, not to discuss the affairs of CIP and so on, and the rest of us have remained mute? We're not making any noise, we're not asking any questions and so on. Why? And so I am saying to St. Lucians, take this matter very seriously, because your life can change overnight. That may determine whether the loved one you have, brother, sister, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whether you can ever see them again in person. That may decide young person. Now, young people usually do not associate a lot of things with themselves. Young person, the scholarship you're thinking of, okay, the studies you're thinking of pursuing at an American university may be out the window, because you will not have access to the United States. You will not get a student visa to go to the United States to study. That's how direct it is and impactful it is for you as an individual. Businessman, forget it. That's why we do most of our business. Most business people in St. Lucia, forget it. That you'll have to find other means of doing business. And so, Andre, you and I who travel for leisure, we're happy to go in the United States and do a little shopping and so on, that will be curtailed. So the government must not take it lightly. St. Lucians should not take it lightly. And I must say, Andre, when we look at it, you have to put it as it is. Under this government, they have really negatively affected our lives as we knew it in St. Lucia. And I say so because we heard the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association saying that we are experiencing the worst healthcare that we have ever experienced. We are seeing record numbers. We have seen on 2 occasions record-breaking numbers in homicides. Okay, thank God it appears, and I don't want to talk too quickly, but it appears that the homicide figures, at least, are going down. Now the police is saying that crime as a whole is going down. I do not know that, because I know there's a lot of robbery, a lot of theft and so on. I think St. Lucians have reached the stage where they themselves dismiss those things. They don't even report it, because there's a sense that nothing will come of it, nothing will happen. But at least there seems to be an abatement in the level of homicides that is taking place. And while the government is quick to tell you no government can prevent crime, it can prevent crime and so on, they'll be quick to tell you they're responsible for it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I want to appeal to St. Lucians to keep it this way. Let us, I've always said we'll have our disagreements, we will have our differences, but let us settle it in a more amicable manner. Let's use the institutions as questionable as some of them are, let's use our institutions. Go to the courts, go to the police. Let's deal with our matters in those ways. So go to some arbitrator, whether it's your pastor, your priest, some upstanding person in your community that may be able to mediate between the two of us, Andre, and settle the matter. Let's do it that way, rather than settle it with fists now. Fists wouldn't be too bad, but guns and cutlasses, And so I'm saying so to say that we have to be mindful of the quality of life that we live. We talk about a democracy. We must preserve that democracy, because with democracy come a lot of privileges, like the freedoms that we enjoy, and so on. And so when we look at what is happening with the kind of governance that we experience in the reputation of our country, the level of corruption that exists right now, and I must admit that for every administration in this country, we are talk of corruption. But there is idle, glib talk of corruption, and there is corruption where you see evidence of it, sufficient evidence to make you ask questions. That is happening now. And so we must be mindful of those things, and we must put pressure on the government to let them know that the way that they're operating their MO is not acceptable. Now, I want to touch on the issue of Crown lands, Andre. And more so because the bananas issue is another current issue.
And I have a question on that.
Yeah. Another current issue that exists right now and so on. I cannot pretend to be intimately familiar with the arrangements that are there, but what I'm hearing is a little disturbing in terms of how the people are treated. And you see, it cannot be acceptable for when these things take place and the government is pulled up on it, for you to come and tell me, rather than tell me how you're going to address the problem, and if you did not do it correctly, how you're going to correct it. Oh, Alan Shastney came there with police sometime. Andre, honestly, I'm sick and tired of that foolishness, that nonsense. Okay? First of all...
Did that happen?
I don't know. But, okay, let us say it happened. I'm 9 years ago.
Okay. So that's something that happened before.
Let's say it happened 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I'm not saying it did. Let us say it did. And the people of St. Lucia were not pleased with that, and so on. They kicked out the UWP government. You said you would do better. It'll be different. And you're coming and you're doing worse and trying to justify it with something you claim that happened that was just as bad or even not as bad,
And when they say Alan came there, so no, where is there?
What Ernest Hiller is saying, and not they, what Ernest Hiller is saying is that the UWP had plans for that area as well, which I know is true. And obviously, that would impact the people living or operating businesses there. And he's saying that the UWP wanted to kick them out and, that kind of thing. Ernest Hiller goes as far as lying boldface in the media to say that we had signed an agreement with GPH that was worse than what they have there right now. First of all, we know that there's hardly anything that can be worse, first of all. Secondly, it is not true that any agreement was signed with GPH. They signed the agreement with GPH. They're making it sound as if, they reviewed the agreement that was signed with the UWP and they got a better agreement. That is not true. Ernest is so bold-faced that he went as far as saying to the media that at the next sitting of the House, he will produce the document. But you see, he can't do that. He can't do that. You know why, Andre? Because of the kind of media that we have. Because he said what he said, nobody's going to challenge him or take him on and ask him, where is the document that you... Because he cannot produce a signed agreement between GPH and the United Workers' Party because there was none. They were negotiating, Andre. There were proposals on the table. But the UWP did not accept the proposals. And I would be damned if I would be part of a government who accepted a proposal like what I'm seeing and hearing now. You understand? So... these are the things that they do to, instead of dealing with the issue, we have a lopsided, unfair agreement with a foreign interest. Okay? Where Andre, today, when the cruise ship comes in, the passenger pays $12.50 US per person. Each passenger pays that. GPH gets $10 US out of that. Come on. What maths, what formula brings you to that kind of conclusion? You know? I mean, so it must beg the question, because we know our leaders are not stupid, they're not foolish, they're not uneducated. How could they negotiate such arrangements? Andre, there's only one explanation. And to me, it is corruption. You know? And so, deal with that. Because at the end of the day, Alan Chasney was leveraging the fact that he was negotiating with GPH in his negotiation with the cruise liners, so that the cruise liners would have done the port in Vieux-Fort, so that we would have had a home port for cruise ships. Home port, for those who do not know, means that the place where you catch the ship to go on your cruise. So people would come in from America, from the region, from Latin America, where they would catch the ship in St. Lucia, and so on. That would bring untold benefit to us. Very often they would have to overnight before going into the ship. While they're here, they eat and drink. They probably would do a little tour or something. They hire taxis. Plus, just the airport charges alone means that we would have benefited from the fact that it's home port. If it is doing the home porting from St. Lucia, Andre, your little bananas, because, you know, would sell, so in other words, the farmers, the fishers, those people would benefit as well. So there would be a lot of, and that would bring economic activity to the south. You see, that's vision, that's planning, that's forward thinking. The current government seem to be just doing things as they go along, and the fact that they do not have a plan, it appears that people in the international community who are into business, investors and so on, seem to be just pulling wool over their eye and coming out with a lopsided agreement. Look at Galaxy. Ernest Hiller actually said, the money from the sale of our passport is not our money. He said so. It's Galaxy's money. I mean, you ever hear more? I mean, it actually goes into Galaxy's account. Now,
But isn't that the way the program works?
No.
The CIP?
No. There's supposed to be an escrow account that both parties have access to. Because at the end of the day, Andre, you invest. So if the agreement is you invest, you pay so much, you sell, let's say 1,000 passports, and in exchange you're going to build a hotel in St. Lucia.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get, let's say, the value of 700 passports from the 1,000, or whatever the agreement is, and the rest is supposed to come to us. So that money goes into an escrow account. Both parties will agree that, okay, Andre is going to draw down, let's say, $1 billion to build the hotel. St. Lucia will get 500,000 as their cut, whatever the deal is. But you can't tell me what's happening there right now. An hotel that will cost about $700 million or $600 million. You have given the guy's passport to the tune of $1.5 billion, and nobody knows where that extra money goes to. They get their hotel, and they get the extra money as well. So what is in it for us? What are we benefiting from it? Why did you go into that agreement? Are you benefiting from it? We're not. Are you benefiting from it? There are serious questions to be asked about those things. And again, I want to come back to that.
So when you say, what are we getting from it? Isn't it a development that will be in St. Lucia and it will create employment and so on?
Yes, but that's minimal, Andre. When you take it out, in effect, we paid for the hotel. In effect, they're running it, and they took some risk because they're supposed to be building the hotel all now. So they would have put their money up front and recover the money from the sales of passport. We get some money from the sales of passport, and we have that business that they are running. It belongs to them, and they are running here. But we benefit in the sense that, well, forget taxes. You know already when investors come and give them tax holidays forever. We'd be benefiting from the little jobs. They'll probably buy a couple mangoes here. You know, that kind of thing. So there'll be some economic benefit from us. And when you look at business, strictly speaking, from a business point of view, it's still lopsided, but at least we're not really in a position to call shots, as I said earlier on. So we have to give and take a little. But we can't give everything like we're doing now. You understand what I'm saying? And so these are the things I think that is St. Lucians are oblivious to. These are the things they're not taking into account, and these are the things we are allowing our government to escape with, which is just unacceptable, and if you ask me, madness,
So moving forward, if the United Workers' Party were to win the next election, would you then try to ensure that when these passports are being sold by this third party, that the people of St. Lucia benefit from that? Because from what you're saying, it sounds as though once they sell the passports, the monies accrued from the passports belong to the developer, right? So I'm saying moving forward, if your party becomes the next government, what would you plan to do anything about that? Because
of course. But Andre, forget about moving forward. I mean, I always judge people's past actions. St. Lucia, UWP was involved in CIB, with the same Galaxy. But that same hotel, they gave Galaxy 700 passports, okay, to build a hotel. It would not cover the full cost of the hotel, but the UWP's attitude was, well, you must have some skin in the game. I'm giving you so much, 60% of the cost of your hotel. It's your hotel. I'm giving you 60% of the cost. You put in the rest. SLP came and gave them enough money to cover the cost of the hotel. From 700 to 6,000 or 5,000 passports, Andre. That's a real big difference in terms of margins. And so we're giving you enough money to more than cover the cost and still have over $1 billion EC dollars extra. You understand what I'm saying? And okay, that's fine. Yeah, it's over $1 billion EC dollars extra. But what is happening to that extra money? Where does it go to? Who gets it? You cannot tell us. Why don't I know?
But didn't you say a while ago the way the system is set up is that it belongs to Galaxy?
Right now.
So why should Galaxy divulge that information? Because that's the way the program is set up. Is that what it is?
No, well, there's an agreement you went into. There's no secret thing. Our government is treating that secret. We know some of those things because Galaxy divulged that information, Andre. Because Galaxy outsmart our government. Simple as that. They outmaneuvered them. They made them look like kids in a negotiation. And right now, because a contract was signed and our government agreed to that, now they're trying to backpedal. Galaxy is threatening, is letting them know that they cannot unilaterally just pull out of those arrangements because that's legally binding. So even if UWP comes in and tries to get out of it, it will cost us. It is for the UWP to weigh the cost and see whether it's, we're going ahead with it or coming out of it. But that's what our present government has done to us.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying moving forward, if your party were to win the next election,
we'll negotiate those deals, definitely. And from Alan Chasney, Dominic Fede, Guy Joseph, they have actually said so. They're going to renegotiate those deals. We're going to renegotiate the port deal as well. Andre, think about it. You gave a foreign company up to 40 years of control of your port. Again, I think St. Lucians do not recognize that your port is one of your main assets in terms of revenue generation. And a foreign entity, a foreign concern, is going to put in $40 million, all told, to upgrade it from paying the loan and improving the infrastructure. And then you're going to give to them for a period during which they're going to raise over $400 million. Whereas, Andre, if it was impossible for us to do the upgrade ourselves and so on, SLASPA was in a position to do it because it is the same property that they leveraged to raise the money, and his head they raised the money, They didn't come with any money. Something that the Labour Party made a big song and dance about. You remember Cabot? Cabot borrowed money from NIC. Oh, that is not investment. Investors must come with their money. They took our NIC money. They didn't take our NIC money. And these are the things, they borrowed money from the NIC, which they have already paid back, But I don't mind them borrowing money from our local banks because our local banks would benefit and so on. But the same way they could have borrowed the money from the local banks, so could SLASPA. And SLASPA could have had the upgrade done and maintain control over the ports and make the $12.50 and decide they're going to keep $10 and give government $1 or $2 or whatever it is. You understand? Now, whilst when I say government, the central government, because when SLASPA keep the $10, Andre, SLASPA is an arm of government still, and whatever SLASPA did with it is for our benefit,
So just going back to the Galaxy thing, because I'm still a little confused. How could this program be set up in that way, where Galaxy gets a certain amount of passports, sells those passports, right? And these are our passports.
Yeah.
And how is it that we don't get anything from what you're saying there? From the sale?
We get something from the administrative costs and so on. But in terms of the real money.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So how is that something new, or it always existed that way? That arrangement is always that way.
That's something new. That's doing of the St. Lucia Labour Party and Ernest Healy. Okay, that's not the way we operated when we operated the program.
Because when you really think about it, that makes no sense. I mean, these are our passports, but a company or whoever it is, this third person sells those passports, and all the returns belong to them.
It is only the people who entered that arrangement, that's as in Ernest Healy and the Emmanuel guy, Claude Emmanuel, who can answer that question and tell you why they did that. Okay? The Prime Minister now will not answer you, he'll tell you speculate. So you know what my speculation is? Because there's corruption in that deal. That's my speculation. And so if there isn't, come out and show us there.
So where are the checks and balances then? Isn't there supposed to be checks and balances in the program?
Like, for example, there should be an escrow account. We had an escrow account set up in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is one of the international financial markets, okay? So we could have done it in New York, we could have done it in London, we had it in Hong Kong, where there was oversight, and you couldn't just do what you want, we couldn't just do what we want, but we both had access to it. We could have gone, when you say you sold 100 passports, we're going to check that you actually deposited the value. It is $1 million that you deposited in the escrow account. Right now, there's no such thing.
And I understand that, but I'm still saying, out of that million, we get nothing from it?
No. Well, they pay us the administrative fee.
I understand that.
But you see, the thing is, that is the question we are asking. What happens to that money? The only answer we have gotten so far, that is not your money. That is Galaxy's money. Our minister told us that. Okay?
And I'm saying that doesn't make any sense.
It does not make any sense.
These are St. Lucian passports.
That's right.
That are sold.
And that's why I'm surprised that there's no outrage in St. Lucia about this kind of foolishness that is going on and so on. Now, Andre, you can only enter into a deal like that if you're benefiting somewhere else some other way. That's the only thing I can say. So,
but I'm still saying, sorry, Mr. Montoute.
Yeah.
I'm saying the CIP office department, where are the checks and balances? Or is it just the way the program is set up, and there's nothing that can be done about
Andre,
it?
that's not the way the program was meant to be run. And if you think that's the way it was meant to be run, ask yourself why the European Union, the United Kingdom, and the US have an issue with us. There is corruption in the program. Simple as that. Now, you heard Martinez call it out. Now, they use Martinez's background and so on, so they focus in on the messenger. Tell me the message is wrong. They have not done so. They're focusing on the messenger. When you're hearing rumors that there's evidence that ministers have $30 million US accounts in Jordan and all that kind of thing, you have to ask yourself questions. You have to.
So is this what the leader of the opposition has taken to court, this particular?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And what's the latest on that?
Well, the matter, they're waiting for the matter to come to, already how the courts work. Yeah? Now that's where I commend him. Because you know what the opposition, the politicians and all of them would normally do? Come with us and talk, allegations, accusations, flinging innuendos and all that kind of thing. You believe them, you vote for them, they come into office, and life goes on as usual. Show me you're serious. If what you're saying there has any merit, take it on in an official capacity, bring it to the institutions that exist, and let's air it out. Because some of the questions that they're refusing to answer, they will have to answer in court. You understand what I'm saying? They will have to answer in court. However, there are some developments that have taken place since the leader of the opposition took the matter to court. Realizing they will have to, because Alan Chasney can ask all the questions he wants. Just tell Alan Chasney go to hell. No, you're under no obligation to answer. You're supposed to, but who's going to force you to? But he now, in his capacity as leader of the opposition, took the matter to the courts, albeit at his own expense. And that's another flaw in our government system, albeit at his own expense. He now will have an opportunity to have the court have them answer the questions that he's asking. You know? So you know what they have done? Realizing that they are jammed, they have begun backpedaling. So they're now trying to set up an escrow account, which was supposed to be in the first place. You understand? They are now trying to put some of the checks and balances that should have been in place there, and so on. Because not only is the matter in court, there's also the European Union and the US that are making demands as to how the program should be run. Okay? So we have found ourselves in a place that is not very nice, very not enviable, and that has tarnished the image and reputation of our country because of the modus operandi of the St. Lucia Labour Party. That did not happen under the government. Now I want to emphasize another point that will add to what I'm saying. When the United Workers' Party was in office, you could have gone on the CIP website, okay, and see how much money they made for the year that went by, what they did with it. Now you can argue about the use of it. That's a different argument. That's a political argument. But I remember during one of the storms, they gave farmers assistance. You know, they did I think at one time they used for some of it for scholarship. I think they used some of it for COVID. Now, I'm not going to do the argument as if they just use it to build a house or whatever. Your government, your policy, you implement your policy. Just let us know what you're doing with it. They did that. You could have gone on their website, and the account was there. You know, a report, according to the CIP Act, a report is supposed to be tabled every year to Parliament, which means, you and I don't really listen to Parliament, Andre, but the opposition is there as a watchdog to scrutinize, pay attention, and see what and ask questions. That is not being done. A report is overdue since October last year. We're in June of this year. The one before, the last one that was submitted a whole year late. Okay? And that is what is going on. That is because our government has things to hide. The same way that they did not constitute the Integrity Commission for almost a year while government ministers were accumulating wealth. It is because they have something to hide. And we cannot sit by and allow those breaches in the laws of our country and that manipulation of our systems in our country for the benefit, the enrichment and aggrandizement of individuals who have decided to get into politics, get into government, okay, for personal gain and personal benefit, like what I'm seeing happening there right now. There is outright rank corruption taking place in the St. Lucia Labour Party. Now, I want to move on to my next subject, Andre.
But just before you move on,
yeah.
I'm still trying to grasp this thing in my mind. How our passports could be sold, and basically, you said apart from fees and so on, that we don't get anything else from them?
Well, they will tell you there's a hotel, but the hotel is not ours. It's Galaxy's hotel.
Yeah, but
and they will argue that we are creating jobs and so on.
Right,
But
exactly.
You can get the hotel. We can give Galaxy the hotel, create jobs, and we make at least $1 billion.
Exactly. And that doesn't make any sense to me. There must be. I hope there's some logical explanation for
and
that.
You know what hurts me? We're talking about 1 billion US dollars. Okay, that is like about 3 billion EC. You know, our budget is 2 billion EC dollars. We could fund our budget, Andre, without taking any loan and without bothering our taxes and all that kind of thing. We'd fund our full budget from that money, you know?
I mean, to me, if Galaxy sells those passports, yes, it's true, you get a cut for selling the passports. I understand that. But at least we are supposed to be benefiting from that as well. That makes no sense. I hope there's some logical explanation as to why it works like that.
Well, Andre, only thing I can say to you, next time you meet the minister...
I will ask that question.
Ask the question.
Yes, I will.
Next time you meet the minister. You know what? I can tell you what the answer will be. If it is the minister responsible, Andre, don't worry, I will be presenting something in Parliament and it will never come. Okay? That's what they're going to tell you.
And that's the Prime Minister.
And so the Prime Minister will tell you, let me tell you what he will tell you. I'm not answering any more questions on CIB. That's what he will tell you. Okay, you're free to speculate. For that, I think he's good with you, so that's what he'll tell you. If I ask him, he'll tell me that's not my business. Okay? So, Andre, that brings me to a point that is very disturbing to me. What is happening to our country now? Let's forget the politics for a while. What is happening in our country today? You, Andre, have a responsibility as a citizen. Likewise, I do. More so, leaders in various civic society organizations, okay? Civil society organizations, sorry. More so than even you and I as ordinary people have a responsibility to uphold certain standards, to speak out about certain things that are happening in this country, and to apply moral suasion, moral pressure on leaders to maintain the standards that are required so that we can have a civilized society, an orderly society, and that we curtail the temptation and the tendency to engage in behavior that is unacceptable, and reprehensible. Why are we such a permissive society? You see, and I'm going as far as to say that there's over-permissiveness taking place in St. Lucia. Over-permissiveness. And I mean, we're not just permissive. There are little things you let slide here and there and so on. That is being permissive. But we are over-permissive. We are seeing rank, bold-faced, raw, outright criminality, corruption of all sorts and so on. And nothing is being said. Abuses, and nothing is being said by the people who have voices in this country. Let's look at our various institutions. Andrea, I'll start with you all. The media. The media has been usurped by the government of St. Lucia, the St. Lucia Labour Party government. By that I mean they have dismantled the media. They have taken almost every known, experienced, significant, competent media person that practice in St. Lucia, and they have made them government workers. And not just civil servants, but government operatives.
Now, just a second, Mr. Montoute.
Yes.
In defense of my colleagues.
Yes.
You make
that's why I attack you first.
you make it sound as though the government has forced these employees to work for them.
Entice them.
Okay, well, you didn't say entice.
Right? Entice them. Now, don't think I'm blaming the government solely. I think if you're a responsible government, you'd recognize that quite apart from your political interests, you have to preserve a society that is of a certain fabric and a standard, okay? And you should not engage in practices that will erode, okay, the values, the standards, and in the operation of a democratic society. There's a deliberate, calculated move by the government to manipulate the systems that exist in St. Lucia and to erode the democratic institutions in this country. They started with you all. Okay? But you all now...
So what's the enticement? Because I certainly didn't get any enticement for sure.
Okay.
So what's the enticement?
Is. Never mind what Kenson Kazimi has said about he working in the media so he can afford whatever, I think so. Andre, you will probably not confirm it, but media workers are not the highest paid workers.
Of course I can confirm that.
All right? They simply give you more in terms of, well, when I say job security, because some of them are on contract and they know when the government goes, they're not part of the civil service they have to go to. When the contract is over, it comes to an end. But they are better paid than they are paid in the private media.
Right.
So they gravitate to it.
Now, and again, isn't that their democratic right?
It is their democratic right.
Yeah?
But do we have... Does that exist anymore in terms of principles, morals, ethics? Does that exist anymore? Because let me say something to you. When you can be bought, okay, anyone who can be bought does not have much value.
So, Mr. Montoute, so how do you know that they were bought? How do you know that?
Well, I mean, when you say they were bought, I mean, in other words, you know that you have to be compromised. You're going to get a few dollars more, but you have to be compromised, because what you are doing now, asking me all those questions, you cannot do that anymore, because I'm paying your salary. You have to sing my song. So that is the arrangement, that's the agreement you enter into. Okay? So now for a few dollars more, you have given up the responsibility in a democracy that the media is supposed to play. The role you're supposed to play, and you no longer play that role. You have become a propagandist for the government.
But sorry, Mr. Montoute, but you're making it sound as though, well, there's this dearth of journalists. Like, we don't have journalists anymore.
No.
Everybody is now working for the government, and there are no journalists, independent journalists around.
Let me hear your assessment on this.
Yeah, but I'm just saying there are many journalists that are inside vis-a-vis those who are outside. There are many journalists. It doesn't stop.
Let me just say something to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm prepared to say 80% of the journalists are now are newcomers. Are newcomers. Okay, I have been...
You mean 80% of those who are on the outside, right?
Yeah.
Are newcomers?
Yeah.
So that's just the way it is.
That's just the way it is.
Yes.
So where are the people to take on the system? Where are the people to criticize the government, to analyze, to evaluate, and to ask the pertinent questions? Where are they?
That's a good question. But there still are some people who are still in the system.
And can I say something to you?
Mm-hmm.
Those who are left, if it is the UWP in government, credit to them, they will take on the UWP, as they have done. But they will not dare stand up to the SLP and take them on, because they know the price they're going to pay.
It'll be interesting to see what happens, Mr. Montoute. Say after the elections, and say the United Workers' Party were to win.
So we have seen.
And to see, because we know all these former media workers will be out of a job. There's no two ways around that one. Or will you keep them? Will you keep them?
No.
You'll answer yes or no?
Let them go and do what they're supposed to be doing. No, but Andre,
so it'll be interesting to see if they will go back now into their jobs as journalists /
Andre,
reporters,
you did not become a known media name in St. Lucia by kissing up to government. I came on your show as a minister of government, and the kind of questions you were asking me, Andre, I had nothing to hide, and is you right? I'm saying, and as the people right to know, and so on. But you're not playing peeping-do with me. You understand something? That's what happens now. You understand?
You mean because of the lack of experience?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I understand that. I understand that.
No.
But Mr. Montoute, let me ask you something. I mean, isn't it a normal thing, or again, one's democratic right, for upward mobility? If an individual sees an opportunity to work in the government in whatever capacity, and by your own admission that the remuneration is a lot better, I mean, why wouldn't a person, considering this is a democracy, want to take an opportunity now to better themselves? What's wrong with that?
They are better in themselves, Andre. They are compromising their craft. They're not better in themselves. So what they're doing now is it adds up. You consider it to be journalism?
Well, no, that's not journalism at all.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So they're compromising themselves. They're not better in their craft.
But they're not journalists anymore. They're at that stage there. Would you still consider them to be journalists?
No. So I'm just saying that makes the point that the government has dismantled one of the institutions of society that is supposed to be a watchdog for democracy. Okay, the media.
So if there's a vacancy, and a reporter wants to apply for that vacancy, what's wrong with that, Mr. Montoute?
If
that's your
let me tell you something.
Right.
Let me tell you something. Government has a media arm, GIS.
Yes, exactly.
But I'm talking about spokespersons who are doing political propaganda for the government. That's what is happening. So, I mean, Andre, let me not play games here now. So Miguel Fevrier, Riani, and all of those people, the journalism they're doing?
That's why I say it's not journalism. They
Exactly.
work for the government.
Yeah.
So now they have to toe the line. We all know that.
They work for the party, Andre, not the government. They work for the party, because everything the party does is right. Now, let me just say something to you. Now, if they work for the government, the opposition is part of government, by the way. So let me just say something, Andre. I don't want to, before we open the lines, I want to go through that.
But I have a couple of questions before we do that, if you don't mind.
We were talking about the over-permissiveness of our society. Where is the Christian Council? And even if the Christian Council is not constituted, we have all the churches, the powerful churches like my church, the Catholic Church, the SDA, the Pentecostal. They see no evil? I mean, they're only looking at the Bible because everything is good in the Bible, Andre. So that's the only place they're looking. They're not looking into society. They see no evil. They have no comments to make on anything that is taking place in our society today.
Do you think they were more active during your administration?
I know they were. I know they were. I represented the government of St. Lucia, okay, in a meeting with, what's his name, the Bishop Rivers, okay, who challenged us, okay, about the breaking down of a building in Castries, Andre. And I was the one chosen in the cabinet to meet with him on the matter, okay? That's how active, vocal, and involved they were. Even when they're about to break down the church, the cathedral, I never heard a public statement from my church. Andre, that's how bad it has become. And I'm saying that openly now because we have to challenge those leaders in civil society. Because when you're going to want to open your mouth tomorrow, I will call you partisan when you do that. Because if you cannot talk today, you either shut up forever or start to speak now. The Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce. You have nothing to say about all what is going on there? The CIP program, the GPH issue, you have nothing to say? And don't come and tell me you're talking to the government behind closed doors. Okay? We, the public, need to know that you're taking a stand. And you have to take a public stand, not behind the doors, stand, not under the table stand.
But I agree with you.
The Bar Association, Andre, the Bar Association has no issues with anything that is going on in our government. I mean, really? I mean, when I think about it, Andre, and I'm saying it, I'm speaking to you all directly now, you all are contributing to the decline and the decay of our society. You all are guilty of the destruction of St. Lucia. You all are accomplices, you all are co-conspirators with the government of St. Lucia, with the St. Lucia Labour Party. That's what you all are. Andre, do we still have a national trust?
We do.
We do? Where are they? You know how vocal the national trust has been about everything from dolphins to buildings to Cabot to everything. They broke down a building in Castries. Cabot is still operating, okay? All the things that are happening, GPH and everything like that. Banans Bay, none of that concerns them. None of that is their business.
Do you think it should, especially where the trust is concerned?
Well, based on their history, they should. Because they have been very concerned about those things, Andre. At certain times. So they have seasons. Do they have seasons? They only speak during certain seasons? So stop being political, stop being partisan. Be a bona fide, genuine national institution that stands up for right, whether it is UWP or SLP. And I don't even have to agree with their stance, Andre, but I defend their right to stand. But when you're going to be selective on taking your stand, I have no respect for them, okay? And I see them as what they are, partisan political. And I, Spider, say so. I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody now, okay? Now, there are other informal organizations in this country that played a mammoth role, far more impactful and significant than we realize. Calypsonians, another set of people that were bought. Another set of people who were bought. And
would you say the Calypsonians or the songwriters?
Both Calypsonians and songwriters. Because if I'm a Calypsonian, no songwriter I come in and write no pro-government song, especially when the government come and promote government and all that kind of thing. Let me just say, and I know you're going to miss that, right, and I concede to that. But let me just say something to you. Every government does good. Every government has flaws. The Calypsonian job is not to come and highlight the good of the government. The government has their PR mechanisms and machinery, plus the whole media that they hijacked to do that for them.
I know you're a big Calypso fan.
Yes.
I know you attend the tents and you support that heavily and so on. Do you think this is a recent phenomenon? Because you've been attending tents for many, many years.
Well,
has that always existed?
No, it didn't always exist. It started for some time now because the Labour Party is calculated in infiltrating institutions in this country. The unions, civil society organizations, NYC, all of them. They calculatedly, deliberately infiltrate and politicize it.
But you know
their purpose.
this year the Calypso's highly critical of the current administration. You're aware of
You
that?
can count them, Andre. You can count them. Whereas, normally, if you get one song praising the government, you did very well. Normally, what Calypsonians do is to find fault with the government and highlight the fault and so on. You have CIP, you have GPH, you have halls of justice, you have a national lottery loan, you have the corruption that is taking place, you have ministers becoming millionaires in 3 years. You have all of those things. One or two Calypsonians thinking about it? Really? They were bought. They sold out. It is not the traditional role of Calypsonians to sing the praises of a government. As a matter of fact, it is the traditional role of a Calypsonian to blast a government. Andre, Morgie has attempted to run for the UWP, And when we're in office, Morgie blasting the UWP, and the UWP understands that's the role and the job of the Calypsonian, I respect Morgie as a Calypsonian. But the others who have sold out, now I said it last year, and it happened even more so this year, more pronounced this year. I have a lot of regard for some of our veteran Calypsonians, like Vader, Herb Black, and those guys who have given us some gems, some immortal songs and so on, but I'm afraid those guys have sold out now. They have been bought. They are sold out. Herb Black took issue with me last year when I said it. I'm saying it again this year. I think he should go back and plant his dash in instead. That's a line of one of his songs.
Yes, I know.
And so...
yesterday, I deliberately, I've been playing the local calypsos between 8:30 in the morning. And yesterday, I deliberately played songs that were pro-government and those who were critical. I had a good balance, to be honest with you.
You had a good balance?
How
many songs you got anti-government? You played 4 songs?
About 6 songs, and I had a good balance, actually.
Okay, so you got 3 dollars pro-government.
Yeah.
You know what I want you to do next time? Play 10 songs and let me see you find 5 songs. that is anti-government. Let me see you 5 songs. Because I can tell you the songs that are anti-government. When you go with Kakal, Morgie, you might win 1 or 2 others.
Yes.
That is it. Full stop.
But in the case of Morgie, when he sang Shame, I heard the...
Morgie is saying exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Shame on Calypsonians. You're now singing for the government like you're the government mouthpiece.
But
Shame. And Morgie is in a position to do that. He has the moral authority to do that because he blasts. When his party is in the government, he would blast his government. He sang Profit and Loss. He sang, I know several songs he sang blasting the UWP.
I wasn't in the tent, but I could hear the fans.
That's the thing. The SLP has organized it that the people come to the tent to chant down any Calypsonian.
Yeah, because I realized he was being chanted down. I realized that.
So was Kakal. That's what we want?
No, I don't think in Kakal's case. No.
No, they chant down Kakal. It's just that there was sufficient support for him
to override.
It. But, really? Let me tell you something, Andre. Even those of us who in the party and support the party secretly enjoying some of those songs, because some of it is justified when we get blows. You understand what I'm saying? You know how many times I sat in the tent and it come in left, right, and center? And it's not because it's about my colleague and not me. There are times when I was getting some of the blows too. I remember going to the tent already. Minel, who's a good friend of mine, come tell me, don't think nothing, bagging a little strike tonight. You know what I'm saying? The same with Morgie, the same, you know what I'm saying? They would come, and because they know me, because I always in attendance on, and they would come and tell me straight, boy, we're putting something on you all tonight, that kind of thing. And you have to understand and accept that's the territory, Today, the government has literally buy out the art form. And you know what's going to happen to it? It's going to die as a result, because you'll have poisoned it.
So you're saying that buy out, meaning bought the songwriters?
Yeah, paying the songwriters and the Calypsonians.
Bought the Calypsonians and bought the fans as well?
Well, they are diehard fans who are being encouraged to do that. It's organized, Andre. It's not just it's just not like the young people who say organic. It is organized. Not organic, organized. That's what it is. That's what it is. Whereas the spontaneous reactions of fans in the thing there, even supporters of a party like to hear the leaders get a little blows, You understand what I'm saying? But right now we are eroding what was. And you know what the Calypsonians did? Is what our ancestors did long ago. Through moral suasion, through peer pressure, okay? They would condemn you. Without going to any court, without anything like that, they would condemn you. And the condemnation, the popular condemnation, would put you in line and set you straight and deter. Serve as a deterrent for the others who would want to do the same. Okay? That is what. And these things, we overlook these things, we minimize it, but these things were important. These things shaped our society. These things shaped our people. You understand? All institutions have been corrupted in this country to the extent that none of them have a voice. The only ones who speak the government language. The St. Lucia Labour Party, language. That cannot be right in a democracy. That does not serve a democracy very well, and so on. And number one, in the Calypsonians, you all are killing the art form. It will die if you all continue to do that. Okay? And so, Andre, I know some people are itching.
Yeah, to call. And I also had a little question for you.
Yeah, go ahead, Andre.
Just quickly. The issue of the unplanned developments, right? I would imagine that anybody who's seeking public office would be concerned about something like that.
Should.
Now, say you're a newcomer and you're going through the constituency and you see the unplanned developments. Shouldn't that bother you as a potential MP to you are in the community, says Banans, for example. You know that you're there. Yeah. It's unplanned. Why do the MPs, at least that time they were MPs, now they're ministers right now, why didn't they address that issue at that time, or those issues at that time? Why leave that now, just ignore it, and then when you have a situation where you have maybe a developer who wants to develop that community, then all of a sudden now we have to pay people off, and so why is that sort of thing addressed before?
Well, you see, you have to balance it against what they say to you. They say they put in you first. But the last thing they did was to come and kick you out, and without any arrangement or plans or anything in place for you, after they dealt with the investors, the developers, and everybody else. Now, I listen to, and I'm saying again, let me just say that again, how proud I am of that team that is United Workers' Party.
You haven't answered my question yet,
Yeah.
I'm asking you, why don't the potential MPs address this issue? Why it's like almost like we don't see anything, and we just leave it there to fester and fester until
in the past it has been addressed. I mean, let me just talk about the party I'm more familiar with, the UWP. We go to Conway, you realize there are high-rise buildings now. They took those people, send them to Cicero, send them to Asu Canal. There's somewhere else they send them, Cicero, and so on. You relocate them in settlements that are supposed to be better. I know for sure, in Moshi, they send some of them in Moshi, in actually well-planned, little, not a village, but like little communities, and so on. So it has been done in the past. It's not being done to the extent that it should have, and that is something that has to be given serious attention, and I'm happy.
But I find historically, these things are addressed when there's there are plans for development.
Yes.
You want to put up a fancy building, then you realize, oh boy, we have a problem.
Yeah,
I'm saying the problem is there.
Right. But
why not address it?
But that is something I know that the UWP is seriously looking at. We started looking at it. I, as a parliamentary representative, for instance, was looking at Labon. There's quite a bit of crown property that people are occupying. Some people have wall structures on it from times, and it's a good thing that you brought that up. I had gone through the process, and everything in government takes forever. By the time I went through the process of getting that organized and done with the Department of Planning and Crown Lands Department, in April of 2021, that's the same year of elections, that was approved by cabinet and everything, we already had people surveying the lands where they occupy to buy. Now, here was the deal. We said, if you are already occupying the land, you get the land for $2 a square foot. We just came out of COVID. We were still in COVID. Revenue was low and so on. But I wanted the process to go on. So I said, okay, those of you who can afford to survey the land, you go ahead and do it, and it will be deducted from the price of the land. So if the land came to $15,000, the survey was $5,000, you only have to pay $10,000. So in effect, the survey is for free. There are some people who actually went ahead and surveyed. During the campaign, Philip J. Pierre, who is now the Prime Minister, and Kenson Casimir, who is now the parliamentary representative, went to Labon and said to the people, that is no deal Spider is giving you on. If you vote for me, Kenson, we're giving you the land for $1 a square foot because you have been on the land so long and so you deserve to get for $1 a square foot. And the other arrangements would be in place, like the survey is for free and so on. Mind you, I said to the people, the $2 I'm charging is because I know government will not have money to put into the infrastructure. So I'm going to use that money because the people are living there, no roads, no water and everything. I'm using that money to go into the infrastructure for that community. So in other words, it goes back to them. So instead of them having to pay to put an electric pole, to run a pipe, and to build a road, government would do it with the money that they pay, the $2 that they pay. They spent 4 years, did nothing. Kenson Casimir and Philip J. Pierre, who went to Labon, during the campaign of 2021, spent 4 years in government. It's 4 years now since they told the people that, I'm sure of that. Since they told the people that, they did nothing. Now, there's an impending election, Andre. Kenson Casimir has gone back now. And remember, the program exists. Everything approved already, and he's going ahead with it now. But he's writing to the people, because he knows them, many of them are already surveyed, and he's telling them now, you have to bear the cost of the survey. You have to pay $2 a square foot. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And you also have to pay in full, a one-time payment. So if your land add up to $20,000, you have to find out $20,000 to come in and pay. We have told the people, we know some of you cannot pay, but if you are working, we will look at your salary, work out things with you, and arrive at a payment plan for you. So Andre, I cannot give you $20,000 now, but I can give you $500 every month, especially for something as important as land. You understand what I'm saying? So we were going to go into that arrangement with the people. No. One, they have to pay upfront right away, full amount. They have to pay for the survey, and they have to pay $2. Now I'm saying, Andre, that was not the deal. The deal was that those who need a payment plan will get a payment plan. Those who did the survey themselves would get a refund, so to speak, by the deduction from the value of the land, and it's $1 they would get it from. The person that they voted for, that's what he told them. Now, if you make me vote for you on that promise, don't come and change it tomorrow. So I'm saying to the people of Labon, your parliamentary representative cannot do that to you. Do not accept that. Insist on what he promised, because you voted for him on that basis. He has to give it to you at $1 a square foot. Because don't tell me you just arbitrarily just came and say so. You're supposed to know what you're saying when you're making your promises. Insist that you all get it for $1 a square foot. Insist that the government pay for the survey or deducted from the value of the land. And that those of you who cannot pay, you get a payment plan. Insist on that. That I'm advocating, and I'm saying up to people of Amman, come together. Even those who can afford to pay off, stand by those who cannot. And insist on it. Politicians must stop lying and bluffing people to get votes, and when they get into office doing something different.
That's Donald Trump.
Yeah. So, yes, Andre.
Let me just give the numbers when you're ready.
Give the numbers, please.
Okay, the fixed line is 572-9710, 572-9710, or you can WhatsApp 287-0971. WhatsApp is 287-0971. Somebody's already on the line.
Yeah, and I just want to mention a group I forgot who have a voice conveniently sometimes when it serves them. The Rastafari Association.
Ika?
Aaron Alexander and them.
Ika.
Yeah. You don't hear them on many issues. Yes, good morning. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Please go ahead and make your contribution.
Good morning, Spider. Good morning, Andrew Paul. How are you doing?
Morning. All is well.
Yes.
Good morning.
Yes, pertaining to the government, Mr. Spider, I have seen a pattern that has put us in a situation where we are making enemies of our friends, which is the Americans, the Europeans, and the Western world.
Yeah.
And we are busy making friends with people that are not siding with the West. Basically, you can say, for example, Philip JPA came out a few weeks ago and said that that he's going to be doing bilateral ties with Brazil. And one of the mechanisms that he did to forge those ties was bring down the tariffs or bring down the taxes so that it will be much lower, so St. Lucians can now import more meat and beef from Brazil. By doing that, Philip JPA has now crushed the local economy in terms of beef processing and cattle raising and whatever it comes to chicken and thing. Because now we cannot compete with Brazil. Brazil is the biggest country in Latin America. Brazil is the biggest economy in Latin America. Brazil is a part of BRICS. Brazil's capacity to produce beef and thing will outweigh our local industry. And you can see that across our economy when it comes to the selling of the ports, the selling of the airport. And now we are hearing that the Nigerian president is going to be coming on our island. And we do not know what is the ties or what is really the cause. So I'm seeing a geopolitical shift when it comes to our international affairs. And by doing that, we are risking ourselves in a position now with the CIP program where the Americans are now telling us that they're going to put visa restrictions on us. And also in that same report, they said that those governments are practicing anti-American affairs. So I do not know if the ties with Maduro, the ties with going into Brexit by joining Brazil. Now Brexit is something that opposes America hegemony basically. So there you have countries like China, South Africa, Russia, Iran, Brazil that makes up the Brexit bloc. And I just want to say this for me to finish, is that most of our lives and most of our income and most of our export and import comes from America. Most of our people living in America. I do not see in the near future any solution learning Portuguese for us to mass go to live in Brazil or Nigeria. I do not see solutions going and live in Nigeria to send barrels to St. Lucia at any time. They may have a few, but when it comes to capacity and the amount of people that is living in America and those different places, and you know, the thing is, the world we are living in today with the wars that is happening in the Middle East and what is happening with Donald Trump and everything is that Donald Trump do not play. Donald Trump see if you going to mess around and you anti-America and anything, they even looking into your Facebook account to see if you're anti-America to get a visa. So my point is, my brothers and sisters that are listening, is that the situation cannot continue like this. Our country will collapse, and it is not us that will be, it is the population that will be feeling the brunt of the situation. Because when a country puts sanctions on you, like a visa restriction, it is not for the government, you know, it is for the people now to feel the pain, to ask for a change in government. And this is what's happening. We have lost our bananas to England. The Europeans are threatening us with visa restrictions. The Canadians have already put visa on us. I remember a time we could have just go to Canada without a visa, just play a plane ticket. It was under Kenny Anthony, they put visa restrictions for Canada. The Americans are threatening us. So, St. Lucians, it is time for us to wake up and see that everything around us is crumbling. The young people are crying out, they're dying, there's no hope. But if we vote for United Workers' Party, if we give the Alan Shastney administration a chance, because we have seen that all those guys did was lied for the past 5 years when Alan Shastney was in government, because there's not one United Workers' Party member have been arrested for the past 5 years, and Richard Frederick have thousands of files. But one, there's a special prosecutor. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, and thanks for your contribution, a very enlightened contribution. And let me just say this, well, you talk about the deal with Brazil and whatever. This is a government without a plan, and they just arbitrarily just jump into decisions and make plans without looking at the pros and cons and thoroughly assessing what they do. So if we end up destroying our own agricultural industry here and so on, it's no surprise to me. That's what happens, and that's what is happening with the negotiations that we do in CIP, with GPH and with NH and so on. That is because we have a government with no plan, no vision, and that's what goes. And so when you talk about our involvement, our historical ties with Europe and all of this, I first want to say that we are a sovereign country and we have a right to associate with who we want to, but we have to be strategic about it, and we have to look at our own interests, because that's what every other country does. So thanks for your contribution. We have another call, Andre?
Yes, we do.
Yes,
Yes, we do.
Good morning, caller. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Go ahead and make your contribution, please.
Good morning, Mr. Montoute. How are you doing? And good morning, Andre.
Morning,
Good
sir.
morning. Good morning.
Andre, you look really sharp, today.
Thank you.
It seems the Shabbos chemistry is working for you, Andre.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Oh, sometimes okay. I think I should join your club.
I think so. Yes.
Caller, once
You've been
it's
safe hands.
Thursday, Andre wearing orange, because Thursday and Friday is meet the opposition and meet the minister. So Andre telling you he not in that he orange. Orange is a mixture of red and yellow.
No. Andre has two programs: meet the opposition and the minister not talking. So the one on Friday is the minister not talking.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, good program, Mr. Montoute.
Yes, sir.
When our country, St. Lucia, faces the possibility of being banned, a U.S. travel ban, one would expect that any sensible, constructive government would do what's necessary to prevent that from happening.
If they can, yeah.
It's over 2 weeks since we saw this supposedly leaked memo that St. Lucia was one among 36 countries possibly to be on a U.S. travel ban. And as we know, there's serious consequences or implications if our sweet good country, St. Lucia, is placed on that U.S. travel ban. With travel, people having to come to the U.S. for medical attention, people wanting to come to the U.S. to visit their families, students who have to go to school with their student visas, and the list goes on. One would expect by now that our government will see, the Labour Party government will see it necessary to at least reach out to the U.S. authorities to say, okay, guys, we noticed you placed our country on this potential U.S. travel ban. What can we do to mitigate or to prevent us being on a travel ban? But what do we see? They ignore the travel ban, and rather than taking care of that situation, we're hearing that the president of Nigeria is coming to visit in St. Lucia. I think it's tomorrow. And then we're seeing and we're hearing, Andre and Mr. Montoute, that they're closing down both airports, and persons will be inconvenienced with traffic and all kind of thing. My information is that the Nigerian president is not coming down by himself, He's coming in for a delegation of 70 people, 70. And my question is, who's going to foot that bill? Who's going to foot that bill? 70 a delegation of 70 people? At what cost? When people are suffering, they cannot get medication at the hospital. The school feeding program is in total shambles, is in a mess. The teachers' poor job, they're trying their best. They have to give the children little ration, the meals at the school. I mean, you couldn't even host last year's school sports. That has never happened in the history. But the government of the Labour Party would find it necessary at this point in time to host a Nigerian president. At what cost? What is the benefit of hosting this president's visit, this Nigerian president's visit, when we're on the heels of a post? And by the way, Andrew and Mr. Montoute, Nigeria is one of those countries on the potential U.S. travel ban list, So I don't know what's the priority of this Labour Party government. What is their priority? Well, I don't understand. At what cost? 70 people? Nah, that cannot be right, people. When people are suffering in the country, they cannot get the roads are in a mess. The schools are in a mess, total disrepair. The cost of living is killing people. When you go to the supermarket, people tell me they cannot even afford basic items at the supermarket. And you're going to pay all that money to host a Nigerian president, and it's coming in for delegation, if my information is correct, of 70 people.
Well, we have not been told what this is all about, what is expected to be the outcome
Exactly.
in terms of benefits and so on. But you know, caller, that we have a government of gla and hurrah to distract people. And, you know, because from that, they're going to go into carnival, and from that, they'll Journée Creole, and it's always a distraction. And I'm not saying those things are not worthwhile, but that's not supposed to be the sole and primary preoccupation of our government, to just, you know, divert attention from the real and main issues of the day that they are not addressing and not dealing with, that is causing serious hardship and have dire consequences for our people.
Yeah. Exactly. And there's no accountability. You're hosting a Nigerian president is coming to St. Lucia. What is the purpose of that visit? What is St. Lucia is standing? What is the benefit for St. Lucia? As far as I'm concerned, I don't see the benefit.
You can't talk to those government ministers in the SLP about accountability. You know, the only thing they're concerned about is their bank account. You know?
Exactly. Ministers of government, they travel, they go and meet whoever. They're having those meetings. Andrew will tell you that. He's been lamenting on that. They don't come back to the country and report to the people as to the nature, who they met, what were the discussions. That you see that happening more so under the Labour Party. I heard 2 years ago, went all the way somewhere in some Serbian country, that's Alva Baptist, to have some meeting, never came back to the country and tell the people what is the nature of the visit. Total disrespect and contempt for the people of St. Lucia. Look at how they treated the people at Manans. I mean, this has to stop, St. Lucia, and we have to right that wrong. And let me just say, I hope Andre is going to send me his bill, just to indicate quickly that the New York Flurbo Caucus, we are starting to right that wrong, and so we're raising funds for the party, the UWP, and so tomorrow night we're having our second in the series of our domino competitions, and it's at 154 Utica Avenue between Prospect Place and St. Mark, and we're scheduled to start at 7 p.m. Winner takes it all. It's $20 to register to play to get involved in the competition. And as more persons register, the cash prize increases. There's going to be lots to eat and drink. So this is where the action is, hosted by the New York Flurbo Caucus. And just quickly want to say that we're making a special appeal to all supporters of the United Workers' Party in New York and in the Bronx and Queens, that the New York Flurbo Caucus, we're having our general meeting this coming Sunday, June 29th at 4:30 p.m. at the same venue on 154 Utica Avenue between Prospect Place and St. Mark. And we're urging everybody to come out because we have a lot to discuss as to the way forward, and the New York Flurbo Caucus, we are definitely assisting in righting that wrong. Have a blessed day, guys.
Okay, thank you. Andre will send you the bill.
Andre will bill me, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
And I will send an invoice in US.
Yeah, that's right, in US, yeah. So, do you have any caller, Andre?
Not as yet.
Okay.
Let me just give the numbers again. The fixed line is 572-9710. Fixed line 572-9710, or you can WhatsApp 287-0971. The WhatsApp platform is 287-0971.
Yeah, you know, Andre, and
okay, we have somebody calling.
Call, yeah. Hi, good day, caller. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Go ahead and make your contribution, please.
Hi, good morning, Spider. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning.
Spider.
Yes.
I think we have to speculate because we are not left with much choice or many choices when we are starved of information.
That's correct.
But regarding the visit of the Nigerian leader, I understood that he's coming with a very, very large entourage. And I am sorry, but I have to speculate as to the composition of that entourage. Bearing in mind that elections may be around the corner, and the culture
Hello? We lost the caller.
I think it's a bad line.
Yeah.
We have another call on the fixed line.
You know, no one they're talking about expect traffic disruptions and all that kind of thing. If you have an entourage of 70, I mean, come on, you know.
And for the previous caller, please try calling back.
Yeah, sorry about that, caller.
But you have another call.
Yeah. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Please go ahead and make your contribution.
Good morning, Spider. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
And good morning, Miss Andre.
Morning.
Now, what I have to say, Andre, this is addressed to you.
Can you speak up a little?
Actually,
Yeah.
I am saying this is addressed to you. Andre, I've been following you from times. Then, all of a sudden, I saw you were leaning towards the Labour Party because that's when you're on 100. I stopped listening to you. Most people, but I can call quite a few. Then you come open your own station. But you was going very well. But all of a sudden now I see you leaning gradually to the Labour Party. There was some time ago, you, your brother, and the young lady who was in the studio, they were talking about nice people nice people in politics and so. You all call all SLPs. You all call the Louis fella. Not one UWP person you all mentioned. Not one. I said, my goodness, you see that? So which means UWP has no nice people. You'll, okay? That's Cicero, former minister. You'll call him. You'll call everybody. I keep listening to you. This Spider on your show there, you're bombarding him with questions. When the minister comes there, you barely ask them a little question. You barely ask them questions. I don't know why are you being so biased and so I don't know what is your motive or what is your intention.
Okay. So, caller, can I just respond, please?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Montoute is here for 2 hours. Okay, and I mean, I think it is a good idea for me to engage Mr. Montoute because Mr. Montoute, can you imagine you just there rattling and speaking by yourself for 2 hours?
Right.
I think I
think it serves a good purpose if he helps make the show. You know.
Yeah, to engage you and so on. So I'm engaging you. The problem with the minister, they only have for 1 hour and they usually have a guest. I can't be interrupting the people.
And what Andre is not telling you, they're not very amenable to, other people asking questions.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, I know about that, Andre, because I listen to the program.
It's only an hour,
Yeah.
and remember, there's a host, and also the emphasis is on the minister. I can't be interrupting them at every point.
No, but Andre, I know what I'm saying. I've heard the hosts take issue with you asking questions, so they're not amenable to questions.
Well, I do ask questions. I do.
That is no excuse because the same way they're having Spider having his host too, and so and he's having his thing, and you're still bombarding them.
That is not true. That is not true, Colin, because last week you had the gentleman who was your guest again the week before.
Stephen Favourite.
I hardly said anything.
But we are open, that's the difference.
I hardly said
But
anything.
I'm happy you see the difference, between us and them. We are open to the public, we're open to questions and so on. And I must say, I enjoy it when Andre does the engagement, because it brings out more, I must admit, from the program. And, and I have to tell you, I have not found Andre to be biased or offensive in any way. I must say that.
He's not being offensive, but as far as I'm concerned, he's being biased to.
So because I'm asking questions, I'm biased. Okay.
Biased.
All right, sir. Thank you very
don't worry,
much.
he'll put some questions on them tomorrow.
I tell you what. Thank you very much, caller. Mr. Montoute, you can say it publicly right now. Would you prefer if I do not engage you when you come in?
I actually enjoyed and look forward to it, Andre.
Somebody messaged me a while ago, and hear what they said. I'm disappointed in you because you're agreeing with Spider. See that? And the other caller said something else. I can't win.
I mean, now let me just say something to you. When things like that happen, Andre, one person is accusing me of this, the other person, that tells you're in the middle of
exactly. So I'm doing a good job.
So it's about time you start being more with us.
Final call. Final call.
Yes. Okay, caller, go ahead. You are final caller for today. Welcome to Media Position. Go ahead and make your contribution.
What an accolade. Good morning, Andre. Good morning,
sir.
Spider.
Good morning.
To you. Morning.
Andre, you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you, sir.
You.
Thank you.
We'll have to change that orange to yellow.
Anyway, Spider.
And I'll get a job. With the election.
No, Spider.
Yes.
Nothing ceases to amaze me with this government and this prime minister. I mean, the bungling continues. I just read a Facebook post from a friend of mine, and he's a Labour Party supporter. So sometimes we normally qualify things by people's political affiliation.
Mm-hmm.
He said he's so vexed with British Airways because they're leaving him stranded in Berlin, in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't give him he didn't know the reason at the time. So he found out that they told him that the airport is going to be closed on the 28th of June for 2 hours, and that's the time that he'll be coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So British Airways are not coming in on that day anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then he doesn't know that the reason why this is happening is because the Prime Minister and the government of St. Lucia has scheduled the President of Nigeria to arrive at our peak hours.
Mm-hmm.
What people need to know is that the President of Nigeria has his own flight, his own pilot, his own crew, which means he could come at 9 in the morning, 7 in the morning, any time apart from our peak hours, which at Euronora is between 2:30 and 4:30 on a Saturday.
Right.
And at the Charles Airport, VG Airport, that's what I know it as, in Castries, right, between 4 and 6. The same hours, which are our peak hours. These are the hours that our government
is closing our airport.
Agreed to receive the gentleman here.
Mm-hmm.
Spider, what kind of thinking?
I'm not surprised anymore. As a government with no plan, with no vision, we just do things arbitrarily. I am not surprised anymore. I have to confess to you. So forgive me if I don't join you in the surprise. I'm not surprised.
No, I said nothing ceases to amaze me.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought nothing ceases to amaze me until this. I mean, can you think of the number of people who are like this gentleman in New York, in Berlin, who are connecting flights? It's not just inconvenience, because you know what he said?
Mm-hmm.
British Airways has offered him one option, fly the day before.
Mm-hmm.
But even when he flies the day before, they're not going to give him a hotel, or they're not going to upgrade him.
Right.
So who's going to be paying for all of these people who have connecting flights leaving St. Lucia, and they leave late?
Yeah.
And so they've got to get to America late, so their connecting flight is already gone. Maybe they can't get another flight, and they have to stay in a hotel.
I mean, you see, these are the things we lay people can take into consideration. Even a government, and like you said, the guy is most likely coming on a private plane with his own private arrangements, not a commercial airlines and so on.
Caller, thank you so much for calling. Thank you.
You can schedule it. You can schedule it for a more convenient time. Simple as that, But thanks a lot, caller, for your contribution. Andre, we have come to the end of the program. Let me just, before we end, take this opportunity to thank all of the listeners and viewers, and especially the callers. Join us again next week. I'm not sure if I'll be the one, but the program will certainly be on. And you can join me on Monday for Like It Is on Hot 7 TV, where I will have a special guest, and I can tell you from now, I will have one of the newcomers to the political arena, Tommy Descott, another bright spark for the United Workers' Party. I'm looking forward to that interview with him, and listeners and viewers, you can join us. You will not be disappointed, I can assure you. So thanks again. Have an enjoyable weekend, and stay tuned to the United Workers' Party, where you hear the truth and we bring the information to you that your government deprives you of.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lenard Spider Montoute, the host of Meet the Opposition. Listen again and view again next week, Thursday, same time from 9 a.m. until 11 a.m. Well, this is the end of my stint here on Rev-Up St. Lucia for today, Thursday, the 26th of June. Thanks for listening. As always, you can check me out tomorrow morning, God willing, same time from 5 o'clock for another Wake Up and Live. We have Kina up next. She'll be with you until 3 this afternoon. 3 o'clock is going to be Zen the DJ. That's what's happening on Rev-Up St. Lucia for the rest of today. You take care of yourself. So long.